All right, I want to talk about section 10.3. This one's called Nets of Solid Figures. And when we have our figures that we were looking at before, let's draw like a rectangular prism real quick. Lots of times we don't want to look at them in 3D space because it's a lot more difficult to do calculations and manipulate them. So I really want to put them back into 2D space. So the easiest way for me to do that is to kind of, like if I had a big giant pair of scissors. Those are supposed to be scissors. They're terrible, I know. And we kind of cut along the edges here so that it is now kind of disconnected. So we kind of cut it, and then what we can do is we can turn this into what we call a net. And the net of our rectangle would look like this if we kind of cut it open. We would have our rectangle in the center for our first base. That would be our net. Whereas you can see, if I folded it all up, I could refold it back into the same shape. And in fact, I could argue that between these two, the surface area is the same. Because each of these little sides are exactly like it was before. Now, this one has area or even volume that I can fill inside of it, where this one does not have any volume. It would not hold any water if I tried to pour into it, because I've kind of taken it from the 3D space into the 2D space. But a lot of times it's very helpful for us to look at our 3D shapes and our solids as nets. So this section we're going to be thinking about what they might look like if they were taken apart and rebuilding them in our heads. For example, a question might say, what shape is this? And the correct answer for this would be, of course, the square pyramid, the square pyramid base, which we called, I remember what I called that exactly, the rectangular pyramid. Because you can see if I took those triangles and kind of folded them all up into the pointy top, you would be able to rebuild this shape as we've got. Sometimes it looks a little bit interesting when I have my faces that aren't faces, or my curve shapes. For example, say I wanted to build my cylinder. My cylinder might look something like this. This would be the roll that I have, and then my two edges might be right there. So you can see that if I folded up these two into like 90 degrees and then rolled up the rest like a giant roll of tinfoil, I could make my cylinder like that. And they're kind of interesting and weird looking. Another interesting one is our cone. And our cone looks similar to this, and I looked it up because I found some better ones. But we have our base of a circle, and then we have kind of this huge piece that goes like this, because this kind of would wrap around our circle, and then it would fold up into this point. So you can kind of see how this would work when it's unwrapped like this. And lastly, we have the sphere, which is kind of an interesting one. This is one that we do not see as a net very often, simply because it's not very useful to us as a net. But our sphere, remember, is this shape. And it's actually very difficult to cut apart the sphere and keep all of its space intact. So if I were to unwrap this, it looks like this almost. It's a bunch of little like lemon peels all kind of attached together. And This, in fact, these lemon peels are incredibly small. And then you can see where if I were to wrap them all up, because I can combine the ends here, and it would kind of wrap around itself into a sphere. And that would make the net of the sphere. So all you're going to be doing in this section is you're going to, oops, was I off the video? I hope not. Okay, good. All you're going to be doing in this section is they're going to be giving you some nets, and you're going to be writing what shape it is. And then at the very end, you're going to need to make a slightly different net based on the one that's already there. So this is going to be a little bit of a drawing-based lesson, but it's still pretty cool. And there's a lot of interesting geometry that's going to go on. Good luck with the nets. We'll probably do some connections with it, building our own nets, but awesome. If you get stuck, ask me, ask a friend, or ask other adults. Good luck.